So as I said, I believe there are a few use cases for the one call close, and let's talk about that right now. If you run a local business agency with bold offer pricing, it really is a situation where you can convert prospects in one call. This is the closest thing I've personally found to productizing your service, right? Because there's very few variables with this, and the client also has a very easy understanding of the service. So this pricing model rips it with the one call close. As I said, ladies and gentlemen, we've already visited all the different pricing models. When you have such a simple, like, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but it's just like, your niche, pretty much anyone in your niche is qualified as long as they can pay the money. And you just have like a very bold statement, exactly what I call it, a bold offer. You can really close them on one call. You don't need multiple calls. One of the big reasons why we need multiple calls is because of the complexity of our deals. No two deals look the same, right? With us, we have, before it used to be 70% InfoProduct clients, 20-30% e-commerce businesses. Now it's more like 70% e-commerce businesses and 30% InfoProduct businesses. But although e-commerce and InfoProduct are technically a niche, they're more of a kind of business, right? So within that, there's like, you still need to learn the language and this and that. Like, it's very complex, right? And each deal is totally different. Sometimes we do a high, flat retainer. Sometimes we'll do a 6,800 pound a month flat base, right? Sometimes we'll do a 1,600 pound a month plus 5% return on ad spend on anything we make above 100,000, right? So the first 100,000, we don't take a penny. Sometimes we'll do a 2,800 pound a month plus 3% flat return on ad spend, right? So it varies from client to client, right? And because we have this bespoke pricing and because we have very, incredible, 90% of the time high ticket clients, there's a lot of complexity with it, right? Which is why I need this 2 calls. I need Danny to vet them first, and then I need to speak to them. And sometimes we even use a 3-call close framework. Now, this is something we definitely used to do a lot of, right? Danny would take the call, I'd take that second call, really like get 80% in line with the offer that I was going to make. And then on that next call, make an offer because I would need to speak with Danny first. Then, around beginning of 2021, I found out that you can actually just put clients in the waiting room. So I would put clients in the waiting room for 4 or 5 minutes, and then Danny and I would speak for 4 or 5 minutes and be like, hey, basically just finalize the offer, and then we would pitch it to them, right? And that's the way that we would do things. So that's a little bit about why we use the 2-call close framework. So apart from this bold offer pricing, who else is the 1-call close framework really good for? If you are an intermediate to advanced local biz agency owner, then it can also work very well, right? Because you've seen this so many times where you don't need to gather, more preliminary information. You don't need to think about, hey, what am I going to offer? Because, for you, maybe your offer is the difference between charging $2,200 and $2,600 a month because this client is spending more money, or maybe they have multiple locations. So rather than charging them $2,200, you charge them $3,600 for 2 locations, right? Something like that. Like there's not much variation from deal to deal. And over the space of 1 call, you've done hundreds and hundreds and maybe even thousands of sales calls, and you're at a stage right now where you don't really need to employ that 2-call close framework. You can use a bit of that hybrid, and you're going to see that in the vault where you're going to use a bit of a hybrid of like, hey, I'm going to use some slide framework, and then also 50% of it is going to be me, kind of speaking off the cuff to the client. So we've got the agencies that use bold offer pricing or a big guarantee, big statement pricing model. We've got the agencies that are intermediate to advanced local biz agencies. These are the 2 people that can use the 1-call close framework. One sort of demographic that should never, ever, ever use a 1-call close is anyone that does online business, right? So in my opinion, whether that's InfoProduct, whether that's SaaS, whether that's e-commerce, you really should have some time to think about it, right? And instead, because the way that we do things with the demo and Danny, vetting the clients, et cetera, that does a lot of the heavy work for me. If I didn't have that in place, and in all fairness, I didn't have that in place until we implemented that, I think April of 2020. So for the first 4 months of 2020, I was doing this 2-call close framework. Now, another sort of demographic that could definitely use this, but I recommend you don't, and hear me out here, is performance-only agencies. The thing is, when you're signing clients on performance-only, of course you only need 1 call to close them, right? Especially if they're charging, you're not charging them literally any base retainer, but stay away. When you are a performance-only agency, it is vital, it is very, very important that you get access to the back end of the client that you're bringing on, because you can see, I've seen it time and time again. It's funny enough, even with some of our performance deals where clients will inflate numbers or they'll inflate what they're currently able to do. So it's very important that you see the back end of their business if you are a performance only agency. So as I said, really to me, the only two demographics that you use a one call close, bold offer agencies, as well as intermediate to advanced local biz agencies. Now, when it comes to the sales process for the one call close methodology, we're going to go into this extensively in following modules. But the main thing that you need to remember is there is less, there's far less room for mistakes. Okay. There's far less room for veering off track. It's more rigid. And as I said, there's really, really not much room for error. When you do the one call close, it's a masterpiece, right? As I said, it's a masterpiece. And I mean, you're closing up a client in one call, which, as I said, me in 2018, I didn't understand the significance of that. And although I was managing to do it, and I was still doing it at a very respectable closing percentage. It is definitely for sure a big task, especially with some of the larger clients. So in the next module, I'm going to give you the full script, but the high level framework of the one call close is first digging phase, then emotional phase, then logic phase, then culture fit, and then the close. So no need to write that down or anything. I've had Tristan pop it up on the screen, but just so you can understand from a high level view, that's really the structure of it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the two call close. So the benefits of the two call close are endless. For online biz clients, to me, it's a must because of the complexity and sort of the range of results you can get. Then for some of the beginner local biz agencies, to me, it's you should definitely use a two call close because it takes so much pressure off you to be perfect, to follow the script to a T, right? As I said, it really alleviates a lot of that pressure. The main issue that I had in my mind, or main concern or worry, is the drop off between call one and call two when you're using a two call close strategy. What I've realized over the space of the last couple of years is if you are penciling in a prospect that's actually a good fit, right? So they're actually a good fit. Based on that first call, honestly, you think they're a good fit and the vibe is there and they're qualified, et cetera, et cetera. And in your heart of heart that it is the right move to pencil in that follow-up call. I've basically seen no shows. And the other really important thing that we do, and I'll get Tristan to kind of throw up an example here, like this is literally the calendar that clients see. So when clients book in a demo call with Danny, when Danny decides, okay, this is worth having a longer 45-minute discovery call where I'm present and Danny's also present, what he'll do is rather than being like, oh, what time works for you this week? And just penciling into a Google Calendar and then send him a Google Calendar invite. Instead, what he does, and I said, I got Tristan to kind of pop up a demo of this on here, with some fake client information or whatever, is instead he pulls up Calendly. He asks them, hey, what time zone are you in? He selects their time zone. So now they can see the space of the next week. What times are they free, right? First of all, I guess they can see what times Danny and I are free because it syncs with our calendar. But then they can go, okay, you know what? Tuesday I'm free at 5 p.m. my time, right? Is that it'll show their actual calendar. So that's the other fun thing about not having to screw around with, what time zone are you this? Like they can actually see with their own two eyes, what's available. Then what Danny will do is he'll fill in their first name, last name, their email, as well as their phone number, right? And funnily enough, we actually have that information from that first Calendly event because, the thing that's really powerful with that is we have it set. So 24 hours, 6 hours, and 1 hour before they receive an email and an SMS. So this is so important, ladies and gentlemen. Whenever you're penciling in follow-up calls, to the best of your ability, try not to do it via GCal. Always try to get, even though you're punching in the information yourself manually on behalf of the client, always try to get it done through Calendly because as I said, the benefit there is they'll get the email reminders as well as the SMS reminders. And that is so powerful when it comes to your show up rate. And that is really an absolute key when you are doing this two call close framework. So very, very important that you remember that and you keep that in mind. And then also very important, I'm sure, I would have gone you to do this in phase one or phase three. Very, very important that on your GCal event, that specific event that you have, that you go into the settings and you have reminders set 24 hours, 6 hours, and 1 hour before for both SMS as well as email for that client. As I said, when it comes to the two call close framework, Danny, before I did like a two call close and I was doing both calls, now Danny does that first 15-minute demo and then they have a call with me. And for me personally, I would never go back to one call closes because ever since we started doing a two call close, first of all, I'm getting on the phone with the right prospects. I think also clients respect the fact that it's taken, like we really do take our time. And in fact, sometimes I even do a 3-call close. The first demo call with Danny, I take a call. And sometimes I'll tell clients like, in full honesty, I tell them, look, I'm 50-50 on this deal. I need to speak privately with the team. We need to speak for 30, 45 minutes. Be 100% dead set that we can knock this out the park for you. And if we have full certainty that we can do that, then I'll make you an offer on the next call. Does that sound fair enough? And I even tell the clients, I go, look, I know this is super frustrating, but as the saying goes, hire slow, fire fast. We're about to jump into a partnership here. And when I make you an offer, I want to do it with 100% conviction. So just give me a little bit of time. As I said, I apologize. I know it's so annoying having these multiple calls, but when I make an offer, I do it in full integrity. So just give me a little bit of time and I promise we'll get this squared away on the next call. So as I said, sometimes I even do that and I move to a 3-call close. The other really powerful thing I kind of mentioned is that waiting room feature. Ever since I found out about that kind of mitigated the need for that 3-call close in a lot of cases, because I can just speak privately with Danny for 4 or 5 minutes, and we just do it that way. So now I'm going to talk about the high-level framework, and once again, I'll get Tristan to pop up some animations on screen. Let's talk about call 1. All right, so this is the first call. First call is one thing and one thing only, and that is digging phase. Okay, so that's pretty much call 1. Digging phase, where you're trying to find out about their business, and you're really trying to find out, like, hey, put your sales targets for that month aside, put everything to the side. In full integrity and full honesty, can you say that, hey, this is a client worth bringing on and it's worth, entertaining a larger or longer format discussion? If that's the case, pull up calendar. First of all, ask them a bunch of questions, and we'll get on into all this stuff in just a second. But ask them all the questions that I'm going to give you in the 2-call close framework. Ask them a bunch of questions. If they're actually the right fit, tell them they're the right fit, and also tell them why. Hey, based on this and this and this, I honestly think that, we could smash it out the park here. But, this call was really just to find out a little bit about each other, for you to find out a little bit about my agency and the way that we operate and see whether you resonate with it. And then also for me to find out about the inner workings of your business so I can be very honest as to whether we can get you the results that you want. And for me, that's an absolute green light. So let me pop up Calendly. What are some times, first of all, what time zone are you in? Awesome. So what are some times that work for you over the space of the next few days? Okay. That's all call 1 is. Now let's get into the high level overview of call 2. So when you get into call 2, the first thing you're actually going to do is you're going to actually move to the emotional buy-in phase, right? And this really throws them a curveball because they're thinking you're just going to get into more questions about their business, or like, hey, I thought about the offer and here's what I can offer you. Now it's a totally different curveball. You're actually asking them about the reasons behind why they started their business and kind of really digging more. Hey, why don't you just want to, you're already a very successful business owner. Why don't you even just want to stay where you're at? Hey, why don't you just run the ads yourself? Or, ask difficult questions like, why don't you just bring this in-house yourself? Why are you speaking to me as an agency? Well, like, in that emotional buy-in phase, I said, it almost throws them off track. So that's the emotional buy-in. And then you're going to move into reiterating the digging phase. So you're actually going to state back to them exactly what they said in the first call, about where they're at, where they want to get to, what success would look like in 12 months working together, et cetera, et cetera. So as I said, emotional buy-in, then you're actually going to revert back to the digging phase. Then you're going to go to logic, and then you're going to go to culture fit, and then you're going to go to close. And that's a high level overview of that second call with the 2-call framework. So bear in mind when you see the vault examples, it will be different to the script that I'm giving you because, as I said, this, for 99% of you, or maybe 90% of you, or actually, maybe even 80% of you, a lot of you guys are very, very high level in this program. You don't have a Danny, right? Like someone won't be taking your first call, right? So the dynamic is different in that situation compared to me, where, as I said, I have Danny, my CMO. And also the thing is, I've spent years and years propping this person up where people know that when they're speaking to Danny, they're not speaking to like some slimy salesperson, or they're not speaking to like just some contractor, this, that. Like this person is my right-hand man at the company. He almost runs the company, really. So as I said, just bear in mind when you see the script that I give you, it'll be slightly different to what I actually, the live examples that you get in the vault. And as I said, the reason behind that is because of sort of that dynamic at play. Now, one of the other really big benefits of using a 2-call close is it opens up the playing field for angles to the first meeting. So let me explain what I mean by that. If you're using a 1-call close, then that meeting is a sales environment, but like, as much as you try to dress it up as something different, that is what it is. And, you saying that it's something else wouldn't really be in full integrity. When you use a 2-call close framework, for 90% of you guys, this changes the angle to something that it's a lot easier to get compliance for. It's a lot easier to get clients on the phone about. So I'll give you some examples right here. Here are some angles to that first call in a 2-call close framework. The one that we used, 15-minute demo call. It doesn't need to be anything super fancy, but it's the 15-minute demo call. It's a small little container. Like there's a time stamp to it, right? 15 minutes. Clients are very willing to just give away 15 minutes of their time to get a demo of what it's like to work with our agency, right? So 15-minute demo call. Another example is a 20-minute account audit, where over the space of 20 minutes, you just give them a high-level account audit, right? That can be an angle. And at the end of that, you can go, okay, based on everything you've said for this, and this reason, I believe that we can help you get to your goals, or at least do a lot better than what you're currently doing or what your agency is currently doing. Do you think it's worth setting up a longer 45 minutes call to discuss this based on everything I've said, right? So that's an example right there. Another one is a 15-minute knowledge transfer call, right? That can be one of your angles to your meeting. Is a, hey, over the space of 15 minutes, I actually just want to share with you a case study with one of our old clients that I was doing $1 million a month, and I have their permission to share it, and I'll show you what the inner workings of a 8-figure a year e-commerce business looks like, right? So for example, it could be you can, once again, all of these angles can be, you can spruce up and stuff like that. So there can be different angles that you take to the angles that I'm suggesting, if that makes sense. But these are just some high level ones. Another one can just be a 20-minute discovery call. So you can have these different angles that make you sound totally different from other agencies out there. When I started doing a 15-minute demo, no one was doing demo calls, right? And no one was doing short, punchy calls like that, right? So whatever angle you use, and by the way, bear in mind, with a lot of these angles, they're just fancier ways or just repackaged ways to just say what the real, just the main thing, right? There's many ways to skin a cat. And although really all of these calls would look the same, just by using different terminology towards it, it totally opens up the playing field. And now, clients are like, oh, I've never heard about that before, right? So as I said, for me, that's actually as well one of the biggest benefits of using a 2-call close framework compared to a 1-call close framework. With the 1-call close framework, you're boxed in by that call. Whereas with a 2-call close framework, you can change your angle to that first meeting. And there's a lot more flexibility and variation that you can use. So ladies and gentlemen, today's action step is I want you to go to your profile section in the platform, make sure all the info is updated, and also make sure your leaderboard section is up to date. Guys, I don't know if you've seen the prizes recently. The prizes are fucking insane. And the reason, I've made them this insane is because, quite simply, I want to make sure that we have real-time leaderboards and we can see who is killing it. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoy this module, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.